Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at something I think we can all relate to. That feeling of being constantly glued to our devices.
Yeah.
Well, today we're going to be exploring the potential downsides of all that connection. We're diving deep into this fascinating academic paper called The Dark Side of New Technologies.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and it's really eye-opening, It explores the sort of hidden impacts of the internet and social media.
Hmm.
And I thought, it would be really interesting to kind of pick it apart together. So we're going to uncover some pretty surprising insights about mental health, and that fear of missing out FOMO everyone's talking about. And even, that feeling that maybe genuine human connection is eroding a bit in our digital world.
Yeah, I think we can all relate to that.
Yeah, for sure. So by the end of this deep dive, you're going to have a whole new perspective on your own tech habits. So one of the first things that really jumped out at me in this paper was this idea that our smartphones, they're almost designed to be like addictive substances. Oh, wow.
Yeah. They're constantly vying for our attention.
That's true.
Have you ever, noticed how hard it is to put your phone down? Yeah. Even when you know you should be doing something else.
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
Dr. War, actually, his research shows how our phones, they offer this constant hit of novelty, instant gratification, and even connection, even if it's often, superficial.
Right.
But it's this really potent combination that our brains are just wired to crave,
Well,
which makes it so hard to resist.
it's true. It's true. It's like our phones have become these little slot machines we carry around in our pockets, always promising a potential reward with every notification, every buzz.
Yeah, it's like you're waiting for that next hit of dopamine.
Exactly. Exactly. And speaking of distractions, one of the things this paper really argues is that all this easy access to information we have now, it might actually be making us worse at remembering things.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
You mean like the Google effect?
Google effect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've become so reliant on Google and, just searching for everything online. It's like we've outsourced our memory.
Totally.
Think about it. When was the last time you actually memorized a phone number or directions to get somewhere?
Oh, man.
We're becoming so dependent on our devices as these external memory banks.
Wow. You're right. I can't even remember the last time I memorized a phone number. It's all just stored in my contacts.
Exactly.
But, beyond that mental strain that it might be putting on us, this paper also digs into social media and how all those perfectly curated online personas that we see, they can really create these unrealistic expectations for us.
Oh, for sure.
It's like everyone's always showcasing their highlight reel and never the behind the scenes bloopers.
Exactly. And that can be so damaging to our self-esteem.
Right.
Especially for teenagers, There's all this research by Justin Vinn highlighting how social media has become this platform for seeking validation and popularity.
Mm-hmm.
We're just bombarded with images of these seemingly perfect lives, which leads to all those comparisons and that fear of missing out. Everybody else is having more fun or living a better life than you are.
Yeah, it's that FOMO feeling, right? You're seeing everybody's amazing vacation photos while you're stuck at work or something.
Exactly, yeah.
And it just amplifies all that insecurity and comparison.
It really does, yeah. Because social media is designed to keep us engaged.
Yeah.
And often that means playing on our insecurities and desires. It's this never-ending cycle of scrolling and comparing. And in the end, you just wind up feeling a little less satisfied with your own life.
It's so true. It's so true. Which
she argues that, we're losing those really essential face-to-face interactions. The ones where we learn to truly connect with others, read their emotions and understand their experiences.
So it's like we're forgetting how to have those deeper conversations. And those meaningful interactions that help to build genuine connections.
Exactly.
We're opting for those quick texts and emojis instead of picking up the phone or meeting in person.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And this has implications not just for, our individual well-being, but for society as a whole.
Right.
If we're not able to understand and empathize with each other, it becomes harder to build trust, to resolve conflicts, and to create a sense of community.
It's like our ability to connect on a deeper level is slowly eroding. This is some heavy stuff. So what does this paper suggest we do about it?
Well, that's exactly what we're going to delve into in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay.
While the picture may seem a little bleak right now, the good news is that we're not powerless in this situation.
Okay.
There are things we can do to take back control of our relationship with technology. and foster more meaningful connections in our lives.
All right, I'm definitely interested to hear about those solutions. This conversation is just getting started, folks. So stay with us for part two, where we'll explore ways to navigate this digital world in a healthier and more mindful way. Welcome back, everyone. So before we jump into solutions, this paper really spends a lot of time talking about the potential for technology to erode genuine human connection, which is kind of ironic, right?
Right.
Like all this
Yeah.
connectivity could actually be making us more disconnected on like a deeper level.
It is. It's a paradox, isn't it?
Yeah.
It seems so counterintuitive that being constantly connected online could actually make us feel lonelier.
Mm-hmm.
But think about it. How often are you scrolling through social media and you're feeling connected to, hundreds of people online, but you still experience a sense of loneliness in your actual real
I
life?
think we've all been there. So why is that? Why do we feel that way?
Well, the paper points out that part of the problem is in the very nature of our online interactions. They tend to be very quick, very surface level exchanges, lacking the depth and nuance of face-to-face conversations.
So it's like we're trading quality for quantity when it comes to our connections. Like we have access to all these people online, but we're not necessarily forming those like really meaningful relationships.
Exactly. And this kind of ties back to the decline in empathy that we were talking about earlier. When we're constantly bombarded with information and stimuli online, it becomes harder to really tune into the emotions and experiences of others. We kind of become desensitized.
That makes a lot of sense. So it's like our attention spans are getting shorter and shorter, and our ability to really empathize and connect with others is diminishing as a result.
Yeah, and that can have real world consequences.
Mhm.
If we're not able to truly understand and share the feelings of others, it's more difficult to build trust and resolve conflicts
Hmm.
and to ultimately, create a sense of community.
So it's not just about like our own individual well-being. This impacts like our society as a whole.
Exactly. Now, the paper doesn't paint a totally doom and gloom picture. It acknowledges that technology can also have the power to connect people in positive ways.
Right, like during the pandemic, when video calls were a lifeline for so many people who were feeling isolated.
Absolutely. Technology can be an incredible tool for bridging distances and maintaining relationships. But the key, the paper emphasizes, is balance.
So finding that sweet spot where we're using technology to enhance our lives rather than letting it kind of take over.
Right. And that's where mindfulness comes in. Being intentional about how we use technology, setting
Right.
boundaries, and making time for those real life interactions that truly nourish our souls.
It's like anything else in life, moderation is key. A little bit can be enjoyable and enriching, but too much can have negative consequences.
I love that analogy. It really drives the point home. The goal isn't to demonize technology, it's to recognize its potential pitfalls and learn how to use it in a way that serves us rather than the other way around.
Okay, so we've talked about the downsides, the mental health challenges, FOMO, that erosion of human connection. But what about solutions? Does this paper offer us any hope?
It does. It really emphasizes that we have the power to shape our relationship with technology. We don't have to be passive consumers. We can make conscious choices that promote our well-being and preserve those essential human connections.
That's encouraging to hear. So what are some like practical steps we can take to create a healthier relationship with technology?
Well, the paper has a few suggestions. One is to just be more mindful of our screen time. Setting limits on how much time we spend on our devices can free up space for other activities like spending time in nature, connecting with loved ones, or pursuing hobbies that bring us joy.
I've actually started doing that recently. I implemented a no phones at the dinner table rule for myself, and it's made a huge difference in the quality of our family meals.
That's fantastic. It's those small changes that can have such a ripple effect on our overall well-being. Another suggestion is to be more selective about the content we consume online. Instead of passively scrolling through social media, we can choose to engage with content that inspires us, that educates us, or connects us with like-minded people.
So being more active consumers of information rather than just mindless absorbers.
Exactly. And finally, the paper emphasizes the importance of face-to-face interactions, making time for those in-person conversations, whether it's with family, friends, or colleagues, can help to strengthen those bonds and remind us of the power of genuine human connection.
It's like we need to reprioritize those in-person interactions in our increasingly digital world. Put down the phones, look each other in the eye, and really listen to what the other person is saying.
Couldn't agree more.
Right.
And, this whole conversation just highlights the importance of critical thinking when it comes to technology. We can't just passively accept the way things are. We need to question the impact of our tech habits both on ourselves and on society as a whole.
It's like we need to become more discerning digital citizens.
Precisely. And that's something we can continue to explore as we delve deeper into this paper. But now that we've kind of covered the problems and laid out some potential solutions, let's shift gears and look at some specific recommendations for mitigating the negative effects of technology and fostering a more balanced relationship with our devices.
Welcome back to the show. It's been really fascinating digging into this paper on the dark side of new technologies. And it's got me thinking, like, how can we actually use this information to make some changes, improve our lives?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, awareness is that first step. And now it's about translating that awareness into some practical action, right? To create that healthier relationship with technology.
So it's not about like throwing away our devices, but
Right.
like learning to use them more intentionally. What are some specific recommendations that this paper offers?
Well, one of the things they suggest is becoming more mindful of our tech consumption. So instead of just endlessly scrolling, we can actively choose content that enriches our lives or connects us with others in a meaningful way.
So it's about taking charge of our digital experience, right?
Mhm.
Instead of letting the algorithms kind of dictate what we see and how we feel.
Exactly, yeah. We have a lot more control than we realize. Another helpful tip is just managing those constant notifications that can really hijack our attention.
Oh, yeah. All those little pings and buzzes that can be so distracting.
Yeah, they totally fragment our focus. And it makes it really difficult to fully engage in like deep work or even just a good conversation. The paper suggests things like limiting notifications or designating specific times to check them.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Oh.
It's about reclaiming our attention, right? And
Yeah.
deciding when we engage with our devices rather than letting them kind of control us.
Exactly. And here's another interesting idea. Creating tech-free zones in our homes or workplaces.
Oh, like a digital sanctuary. I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, exactly. Having those spaces where you can disconnect from the digital world and reconnect with yourself and those around you, it can be incredibly valuable.
Yeah, and it could be as simple as like a no phones rule at the dinner table or designating like an unplugged hour each evening.
Those are great examples. It's about creating those pockets of time where you can be fully present in the moment without the distractions of the digital world.
And speaking of being present, the paper also emphasizes the importance of prioritizing those face-to-face interactions.
There's really no substitute for the richness and depth of in-person conversations. We pick up on so much more than just words. Body language, tone of voice, that unspoken connection that you just don't get through a screen.
It's like we need to remember that technology should enhance our lives, not replace those real-world interactions, the ones that are so vital for our well-being.
So true. Even small things like grabbing coffee with a friend or having a real conversation with a colleague can make a huge difference.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I think the key takeaway here is that it's not about like demonizing technology.
Hmm.
It's about using it consciously and intentionally to create a digital world that actually supports our well-being and fosters genuine human connection.
I completely agree. We have so much more power than we realize to really shape our relationship with technology.
That's a really empowering thought. So I want to leave our listeners with a little challenge. Think about one small change you can make in your own life to create a healthier relationship with technology. Maybe it's setting a screen time limit, creating a tech-free zone, or simply being more mindful of those notifications.
What one step can you take today to reclaim your attention and foster more meaningful connections in your life?
Until next time, stay curious, stay connected in the real world, and stay mindful.